Hello there, Sir from 17 once again, and this is my Batman Arkham Origins New Game Plus walkthrough. We're still ascending the Royal, or the Royale, which I don't think it's... I don't know. I think Royale usually has an E. But anyhow, scaling up with the Batclaw to the 26th floor, we're moving through the... I really like the aesthetic of this place. I'm a big fan of just these domestic environments in games. I always have been. You know, for every game that you were in a giant field and rocky outcrop of places shooting dudes, I always preferred to be in buildings, you know, in urban environments shooting dudes. It always felt more enjoyable and more interesting to me. And I think it's because of the debris that you can fill these kind of environments with. You know, it's more interesting to interact with than just rocks. And it was one of the things that I never really liked about Dragon Ball Z, how they always fought in the middle of some random outcropping, and they made a logical reason for this, because they didn't want to kill people. You know, they were trying to save the planet, not massacre an entire village while they showed off who had the bigger ball sack. Now, once you defuse that, you want to jump out of the window and immediately use your back claw to get up onto the helicopter. The game then borrows cues from Devil May Cry, and we do a very interesting camera perspective fight scene, which you are most vulnerable in, so be careful, but you don't have to do it for too long. It's nowhere near as well realised as the Devil May Cry iteration. But back to the Dragon Ball Z thing, the only thing I ever wanted was them to knock 10 bells out of each other in cities, because I just think cities are cool, and they're even cooler when you're being thrown through buildings, and buildings are falling over and stuff, and there's cars, and I always preferred that stuff. And it was always cool when you watched the films, and occasionally they went into cities and things, but I just think they missed an opportunity, and I could understand why. I bet it was much easier to get, you know, canvas paintings of backgrounds and to draw rocks than it was to keep on, you know, drawing all the details of cities and things that would be blown up. And you've got to think about funding when they're making these shows and these TV series that run for a very long time, because, you know, it costs a lot of money to do that. So it's always the easiest, simplest and quickest route to do things is generally the one they adopt. But this area here is where you're going to fight Bane later on. You want to get used to this environment, because you'll be seeing it if Bane beats you up as much as he did on my first encounter with him. This fight here, you see that then, really irritates me. If you weren't paying attention, what happened is I countered the martial artist, and he normally follows it up with 2 more counters before you can finally count him correctly. So I preemptively pressed counter for the next counter to come, and it didn't. He just didn't do what he normally would do. And, you know, 10 times out of 10, the guy does the counter every time. Yet that time he didn't. And it's just one of those really crazy inconsistencies where every other time he would have attacked me, but for some reason he didn't. And there's not really too much you can do about it, especially on New Game Plus when you can't even see the icons. But I definitely think a lot of people are going to not enjoy the addition of those martial artists just because of the anal retentive nature that you have to fight them. But I was fighting on a rooftop yesterday. There was a guy stood there, and I went over to him, you know, assuming it was going to be a side quest, and I got bum rushed by the women ninjas from Ra's al Ghul's little gang, which I don't know the names of because, you know, I'm not that up on the Batman universe when it comes to the comic. Which I thought was really interesting, because they're not in the game at all. They're not in the natural progression of the game, but they're in the side quests and stuff, so that's cool, because I think they're a really fun enemy to fight. They're like the martial artists, they're just not douches about it, because when you go to attack them and they evade you, they do it really over-exaggeratedly, so you can always tell when you need to counter. It's not a case of it being so subtle you've got to wait for that 1 second of slow motion. You know, they make almost a ballerina interpretation of an evade, and you know that they've evaded you. They haven't just grabbed your hand and then they're about to slap you and you couldn't see because of Batman's giant head. So I really, really enjoy fighting them, and I'm hoping that my opinion changes on the martial artists, but as it stands, I just think the douches. But keep on moving forward. If you don't know by now, if you want to skip the conversations when Batman puts his hand to his ear, just double tap B and it'll skip that stuff real quickly. And here we have one of the better Predator rooms on the game. Very detailed room, lots of guys, and about halfway through this encounter, when you've killed a couple of the dudes, they're going to put proximity sensors on the gargoyles. So if you're using the gargoyles to your advantage, you're going to be at a disadvantage then, because they're no longer going to be safe. So the way that I approached this room was quite simple. Straight off the bat, I go for those two guys. When they go down, they're going to be notified everybody else that somebody's down, so everybody's going to start running over towards them. And at this point, I'm probably going to start getting silly with the remote claw, because it's my favourite new tool. I'm not classing the electric gloves as a tool there, guys. And it's just really weird. Sometimes when you string an explosive barrel to a person, it will knock them out. Seems legit to me. But it's only when it hits them full on. Like if it explodes and it's not close enough to them, it'll just knock them on the ground and they'll recover. So there's an element of luck to some of it. I mean, I suppose you can alleviate some of the luck by timing, making sure that the enemy is definitely close enough to what you're trying to string them to. But sometimes it's just fun to string them to anything you can and just keep on stringing them, because every so often you get lucky where you'll pull them off a balcony, or they'll hit them with a fire extinguisher which will knock them off a balcony and things of that nature. But I wanted to approach this slightly different to my first encounter in this room, which is I used the gargoyles almost exclusively. But now I knew that the gargoyles were no longer going to be, you know, adequate vestiges from combat. I wanted to try using different things like this, like the grates, you know, like the vents, and it proved to be pretty successful. But do you notice how you can hear a beep? That means that the gargoyle I just stood on is not suitable cover. So I immediately get off there. That's me trying to jump into the vent. But on this game, I think you just hold A as opposed to pressing it, and Batman does it. But we've got 3 guys left, and they're all armoured, which means I can't take them out from behind, but I can take them out from pretty much every other takedown. So throw the Sonic Batarang, get back in the grate. Sonic Batarangs are fantastic. I don't think this game has the upgrade that allows you to use it as, you know, like a shotgun, where you knock out one dude but you can't use it anymore. Which is a big shame, because it was one of my favourite abilities in the old games. But it's not the end of the world. We can adjust. We're Batman. It's what we do. So here come the 2 guys investigating the body. Something to note as well. These enemies will actually drop proxy mines. And they can be very difficult to see, and you can run through a room that you've already cleared and hit a mine. So you want to be really careful and just pay attention to what's on the ground, because sometimes they can look a little bit like guns, like just the weapon that the enemies have dropped. And especially in the heat of battle, when you're not paying that much attention to what's happening, you know, per se on the ground or around the ground, you're looking at enemies or you're looking at gargoyles and things. But what I attempted just then was to make these guys bump into each other so I could go over to them and knock them out. It didn't work, so now they're curious and moving towards my position. But luckily enough, I'm playing in the vents. So I tried again, and it doesn't work. See what I mean by luck that's involved with this game? So I just think, fuck it. Might as well just commit to this. I get really lucky too, because he does not start shooting me until I'm finished with his buddy, which is very fortunate, because he normally wouldn't be that kind. And you'll also notice that he has a shotgun, which, shotguns up close, I don't need to explain to any gamer how bad that situation can be. But that is the end of that room, and we're coming up on the end of the video, guys, so I'm going to cut it off here, because I don't think there's anything really left to talk about. So thank you for watching, I hope the guide is helping, and you take care now.